Hi, I'm Craig Moody. The story you are about to hear is raw and often brutal. So is love. Welcome to the Prince of New York.
Chapter 8 Rome. Okay, now we are going to get into one of the most difficult and misunderstood relationships of my life. The one with the mother of my children. Yes, I know I've established myself as quite the queer thus far, but I do find certain women attractive. As an Italian man, I long for my name and bloodline to live on. I long to have the traditional family units. I met this woman, we will refer to her as Queen, which I think is only fitting, around the fall of 1976. She was the niece of my new captain, a beautiful, strong Italian girl, a virgin, pure and gorgeous. I think I fell in love with her the moment I saw her. She resisted me at first, naturally. Her uncle would never want his attractive, innocent young niece involved with a wise guy. But over time, by that Christmas, she was mine. Our chemistry was different. It was sexual, yes, but mostly it was friendship. We cared for each other deeply, almost like siblings. I wanted nothing but the very best for her. She wanted the same for me. She encouraged me to take night classes and secure myself a legitimate loan broker's license. This was something I was able to do on the side, a way to make clean money, something that could be separated from my street income. It didn't pay nearly as much, but it was mine. It was something I was proud of. It didn't require ripping anybody off, beating anybody up, or flat out robbing someone. It was earned, and I was satisfied with myself, the gig, but most of all, for my queen who had inspired me to be better. Queen got pregnant in early 1977. My first child, my baby girl, was born later that year. This changed everything for me. Becoming a father had a profound effect on the way I saw myself, those around me, and how I operated in the world. I was now responsible for other people, my queen and my newly born princess. I settled down a lot around this time. I drank less, I wasn't using anything around the time, and I even stayed clear of Prince. Throughout 1977, I only saw Prince a handful of times. He heard about the woman in my life, and he naturally pulled away. I don't even think he was jealous or anything. He sent me a box of expensive Cuban cigars when my baby girl was born with a note congratulating me. At the time, I figured that would be it between us. I truly believed my time with Prince had ended, and I was okay with that. I loved Queen. She was the center of my world, along with our daughter, once she came along. But I didn't love Queen the way I loved Prince. My love for Prince was deep and powerful, some soul-level shit. Even though he was no longer present in my life, the shadow of him, the memory, it floated around and haunted me day and night. When he wasn't on my mind, as he always was, I would dream of him, either a daydream or an extremely vivid night dream. It was there I could hold him again, touch him, smell him, taste him, and love on him. I would wake up with a heart-on or in tears. Sometimes I would wake up yelling. Not long before my princess was born, Queen asked me about Prince. She wanted to know about the person whose name I repeatedly said in my sleep. I told her it was nothing, just some guy from work, but she knew better. She felt it in her guts. I know Queen loved me the way I loved Prince. I also know that her soul knew that I was not the one for her. Not in that way. Looking back, I believe our connection happened simply to bring our children into the world, a daughter and a son. Well, our daughter at least. We will get to my son in just a bit. For now, I want to stay focused on those early days of my life with Queen and our daughter. Queen continued to question me about Prince. Apparently, I continued to speak his name often in the nights. One time, she said I was dry humping the bed, thrusting and fucking the mattress as if someone were below or behind me. It freaked her out so bad that she woke me up. Again, I brushed this off as the person being no one important. She let it go, but the first time she laid eyes on Prince, the first time he came to see me, just dropping by one evening, she knew. After Prince left that night, after a cordial and pleasant dinner and drinks with Queen and me, Queen brought it all up again. "So he's the one you dream about," she blurted. I just stared, uncertain how to respond. "Were you too?" Her voice trailed off, but her eyes remained locked on mine. "What are you trying to ask me?" I finally replied, allowing my voice to sound as irritated and annoyed as I truly was. "You say things," she continued. "You say things that a man shouldn't say of another man." My heart was fluttering all over the place. Couldn't believe my unconscious mind had betrayed me so. There was no fucking way Queen would ever learn about Prince from my awake and alert brain. Perhaps had I gotten really drunk, I may have said something, but it wasn't likely. I wasn't that kind of drunk. I was more of a quiet, brooding type of drunk. I didn't become a chatterbox once alcohol flooded my veins. Yet there I was, being confronted by Queen about Prince. All because of some shit I had said in the night, shit I had absolutely no idea about. Only Queen and God knew what I had said. "He's just a good friend is all," I said, swallowing hard, my voice tense and clearly nervous. She stared, her eyes wavering. "You can tell me," she said softly. "I won't be mad. I had a friend in school. He had a relationship with a guy, another guy in our class. It was natural for him. I didn't judge him. I understood it, especially seeing them together. He's married now. He wasn't a total queer. It's okay if you're that way too. I know you love me. I know you desire me. I'm not threatened." This moment led to one of the worst events in my life, a night I will forever remember and regret deeply. I beat the fucking shit out of Queen that night. She was a bloody mess by the time I was through with her. Now, I ain't gonna try to justify, excuse, or explain this away. It is exactly what it was. Abuse. Straight up, and I'm ashamed. I'm not proud of what I did, but in that moment, and again, I ain't trying to justify this, but it just felt like the right thing to do. The thing I had to do. The thing any giddy man in my position would do. No proud Italian-American man would ever allow his woman, or any man for that matter, to accuse him of being queer. My reaction was the result of what I felt I had to do to keep the lie alive. Not a lie I was telling her, the lie I was living, the lie I was telling myself. My captain then beat the living fuck out of me. Had I been married to his niece, this wouldn't have happened. In our world, when a man marries a woman, she then belongs to him. He can do whatever he wants, but the fact that Queen and I weren't married, and she was pregnant, it was all shameful. So for me to lay my hands on her the way I did, pregnant or otherwise, was unacceptable. I'm lucky I didn't get a bullet to the brain then. Queen moved out for about a week before returning. I apologized. I bought her flowers, jewelry, the works. She forgave me, but I never forgave myself. To this day, out of all the heinous, fucked up shit I've done in my life, that is the one moment I truly and deeply regret the most. I wish my captain had shot me in the head for what I'd done. I did deserve it. But it kept Queen from asking anything more about Prince, for a while at least. He would come up again, but later on. But for the time being, 1977 and into 1978, life was fine. Everything was routine and okay. I couldn't complain. Now let's get to my son. My boy was born a year and a half after my daughter. But God didn't finish with him or something. He wasn't right. He was sick all the time. The doctors were never fully sure what was wrong with him. His constant illnesses and various health struggles nearly killed Queen. She hardly slept during those first 6 months of the young boy's life. I have to be honest and admit that I never really connected with my boy the way I did with my girl. When he died, just less than a year from when he was born, Queen had a breakdown. I went back to work. I know people handle things differently, but I had a hard time grieving someone I never truly knew or felt attached to. I guess it was different for Queen. As a mother, she was in love with the boy the very day he was conceived. For me, and maybe for a lot of dads, the love you develop for your children happens over time and with interaction. For me, at least, I never had an instant love for either of my kids. But with my girl, the moment I first laid eyes on her, the day she was born, my love began. And as time went on, and I could hold her, bathe her, kiss her, I fell more and more deeply in love. I never had that with my boy. I was afraid of him. His sickness scared me. The vacant stare, the muffled crying. I don't know why God gave him to us just to take him back so quickly. That nearly destroyed my queen. In fact, to this day, she is still deeply affected by that. A mother should never have to watch her child suffer in such a way, and she should certainly never have to watch her child die. We buried him next to her grandparents. Her depression around that time really fucked with me. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do or how to fix it. We didn't talk about that sort of thing back then. We Italians just ate away our sorrows. Someone dies, everyone eats. But Queen was slipping away. I had to really take over when it came to caring for my princess. Good thing my line of work allowed me some flexibility, so I could take her to school, pick her up, and take her to her doctor appointments and whatnot. It took Queen nearly a year before she resembled something of a normal functioning person again. But she was never the same, not like she was before. It didn't make me love her any less, but it did affect her love for me. When she stopped putting out, I soon wandered. I hooked up with a few guys here and there. I hired one hooker, a woman, but I was never satisfied. None of it fulfilled me. But that time period exposed one major truth: my love for Prince. I craved and longed for him more than ever around this time. The more Queen pushed me away, the more I desired to be with Prince. Finally, sometime in early '79, I phoned him. It was the first time we had spoken in about 2 years, a little more or less. I told you I am bad when it comes to the sequence of events. But when we reconnected, the first time we saw each other in person after so much time had passed, the last time was the night he had stopped by for dinner with Queen and me. It was as if the earth itself shifted on its axis. Prince still had his place in the village. We met at a bar nearby. After an hour of general chit-chat, we were in his bedroom, naked, ravaging each other like hungry wild animals. The lovemaking was uninhibited and passionate, and the way we moved over each other, the touch, smell, taste, it was as if no time at all had passed. Our bodies reconnected like magnets. I stayed the night. I woke up with my head on his chest, listening to the rhythmic pounding of his heart. I didn't want that moment to end. I wanted to remain there, lying naked beside him, listening to his soft heartbeat for the rest of my life. I didn't neglect my daddy duties. Queen was doing a bit better around this time. She was taking care of things more like she used to, but she would have good and bad days. On bad days, which usually led to bad weeks, she wouldn't leave the bed. I would then have to do everything. But I managed to balance my home life and my life with Prince. We started back up again, and things were good. His wife was then pretty serious with her new guy. Of course, they couldn't be married since she was still with Prince, and that was not going to change anytime soon. His kids were getting older and in need of him less and less. I think Prince had a boyfriend around this time, but as soon as he and I became serious again, whoever I was suspecting soon disappeared altogether. I stopped seeing the subtle evidence of someone else's presence in Prince's car and apartments. I never asked, he never told, and whoever it was just dropped off the face of the earth. Funny thing is, a guy like Prince could truly make someone disappear whenever he wanted. I would hope that was not the case here, but just one wrong move, look, or threatening word could lead someone intimate with him right into an early grave. The dangerous side of Prince was a massive turn-on for me, but I was never scared of him. I felt safe and protected by him. I knew he would kill everyone on the planet, including members of his own blood family, before he would ever lay a hand of true pain or harm onto me. Things were going well until my Don called on me personally. This had never happened before. Our Don was strict about protocol. As a soldier, my orders came from my captain. He received orders from the Don. This was the way it went. Everything revolved around keeping the Don insulated from all criminal activity. It was imperative, in every Mafia family, that absolutely no trace of anything lead or connect back to the Don himself. Soldiers could go down. That was expected. They were expendable. Even captains could take a fall. But nothing could happen to the Don. The system was designed this way to ensure the family's power and survival. A strong, powerful Don meant a prosperous, happy family. I arrived at the Don's house just outside the city. It was a modest house, not what one would expect a multimillionaire to live in. He had purchased the home years before he had amassed his wealth. Always one to live within sensible means as a way of avoiding any law enforcement interest or suspicion, the Don kept his house and used it as his personal headquarters. Of course, he had other residences, a luxury flat in Manhattan, a getaway in the Hamptons, and even a condo in West Palm Beach, Florida. But those properties were all under business names, fake names, or even the names of some non-blood related family members. If God forbid the Don went down, a lot of his assets would survive any repossessions by the government. Most everything he owned was in someone else's name. The Don was waiting for me out by the pool. His wife, a tiny petite Sicilian woman, smiled at me warmly as she shoved a bowl of rigatoni into my hands before leading me out to her husband. I held the bowl against my chest the entire visit. The Don offered me a drink and jumped right into the business at hand. "I am sending you to the old country," he said right away. "This is something I'm trusting you with and you alone. Your captain will not be told where you've gone. I can't risk anyone else being involved in this. This is a close, personal matter to me. You need to realize how much trust I have in you to have given you this role. With that comes enormous responsibility. You cannot fail. There is no room for error in this. No mistakes can be made. If things go wrong, there will be no forgiveness, no second chances. Do you understand?" I swallowed and managed a hoarse and hollow response. I was terrified. I didn't want to go to Italy. I didn't want to leave my girl, my kid, or my prince. But I had no choice. This was not being asked of me. I was being told. Refusing would be certain death. Fucking up would mean certain death. I was more panicked that night than I ever was before about anything. Even during the night of the ill-fated highway robbery. I was more afraid sitting before the Dawn than I had been when tumbling down that glass-littered interstate embankment. The Dawn handed me a packet filled with proprietary information, cash money, some fake IDs, and a one-way plane ticket. 2 days later, I was on an early morning flight to Rome. I had no idea when I would be back, if at all. I wasn't allowed to say anything to anyone. The Don said he would look after my woman and child. Of course, my main concern was Prince. I didn't want to risk involving him by breaking the Don's order and informing someone of where I was going, but I worried about it greatly. During the flight to Italy, I hemmed and hawed about just how long I would go without contacting Prince. If the trip lasted longer than a week, I would phone. That is what I promised myself. Since Prince was a fellow Don, involving him was a lot less risky than had he been just some foot soldier like me. The plane landed, I fetched the sole suitcase I had with me, and made my way from the airport and into the city, intent on locating the first and only address I had been given. The Don himself promised to be closely involved with this mission. I wasn't given any additional information than what was needed at the present moment. I was to report to the first residence and remain there until correspondence came from the Don. I didn't know how he would reach me or when. I knew nothing, and this was nerve-wracking and frustrating. I located the first flat, a tiny place just blocks from the Vatican. A man lived there, a bachelor of around age 30 or so. He didn't speak English, and I didn't speak any Italian, so our communication was limited and stunted at best. I stayed at the apartment for 2 days before the first word came. A man arrived in the middle of the night. I was awakened and given a handwritten note. On it was an address, a telephone number, and the combination to what would later be revealed as a safe. I had to make my way to the next location by using public transports. No private rides. No one could be involved. The next address was a small house on the outskirts of the city. No one was there, but it was clear that someone came there often. It was clean and generally lived in. There was fresh food in the kitchen, and the bed in the bedroom had recently been slept in. I located the safe and turned the knob until the combination opened the door. Inside was a pistol with a silencer, much like the one I had been handed the night I made my bones. I took the gun, slid it into my coat, and located another handwritten note inside the safe. I felt like I was in a fucking game of Clue or some shit. This one had another address. It had a time and the simple direction. Quick. Clean. Then there was a small cutout from what looked to be some Italian magazine. The photo was of a young Italian male, handsome, a bit overweight. It didn't have his name, but it provided a very clear visual of his face. The text was limited, but I understood. I was to murder this man, whoever he was. There were no further instructions given. I didn't know how I was to travel to this next address. I didn't know how far away it was. I didn't know what day I was supposed to arrive. I only had the time and the vague instruction to kill this man quickly and cleanly. An hour or so later, someone arrived on a Vespa. The rider disappeared before I could even make my way out of the small house. Attached to one of the mirrors was another handwritten note. This one contained a hand-drawn map. From what I could tell, the address was not far from my current location. I waited until the sun had begun to set before boarding the small machine and buzzing away into the dusk. I followed the map until the roadway became nothing but a narrow dirt path that led up the side of a steep hill. The Vespa whined and sputtered but eventually managed to the top. The address was a large villa high above a vast, lush valley. The view was breathtaking. I parked the Vespa a good distance from the house and waited in the nearby brush. Once the sun had gone down, I observed my wristwatch carefully until it was just 20 minutes from the scribbled time I had been given. Carefully and silently, I ascended the rest of the hill and slipped beyond the large brick wall that surrounded the large villa. I spotted a sole guard in all black, patrolling the opposite side of the courtyard. My heart jumped inside my chest as I darted alongside the house until I located a staircase. I had no idea where I was going or where this man would be. I prayed he was alone and that the guard I had seen was the only one on the premises. I entered the house and crept around as quietly as possible. The murmur of a distant television set echoed around me. I followed the sound until I came to a large set of wooden doors. One was slightly open. Slowly, I peered into the room. I saw the man from the photo sprawled out on a large bed. He was naked except for the part of the bed sheet that wound around his hips and over his crotch. A woman, also naked, was asleep beside him. I wasted no time. I lifted the gun and aimed it directly at the man. He spotted the movement and darted his head in my direction. I fired the entire chamber until the gun clicked empty. The man tumbled back and convulsed as the bullets penetrated his head and upper body. The woman woke, screaming. I turned and was down the hallway, down the stairs, and back out alongside the wall of the villa before she even had a chance to look in my direction. I heard the guard clambering up the staircase as I bolted toward the large brick wall. I located the small opening I had entered through and ran as fast as I could into the brush and toward where I hoped the Vespa was still waiting. It took me a bit longer than I would have liked, but I located the Vespa, started it, and zipped away down the hill and back in the direction of Rome. I had just turned down some side road which was steep and full of very large rocks when I saw a black Mercedes speeding up behind me. I watched as the car roared by. The driver, presumably the guard, had not seen me turn down this suicidal road. I switched off the Vespa and allowed myself to take in the scene around me. A vast sky opened just below where I was crouched. It was an odd sensation to view the sky from a position that felt above it. But the way the hill twisted and turned, my view was through some sort of rock formation, blocking out the sky above me, forcing the sky directly ahead of me into a round window of sorts. In the distance, I could see lights twinkling. This was the edge of Rome. Below the sky were scattered houses, all large palatial villas. Whoever I had just taken out had been important. The Dawn would have never sent me on this mission to take out some peasants. I wondered who I had just murdered and what repercussions that would bring the mafia operation in the area. I really wasn't sure where to go or what to do next. There had been no further instruction. I waited another half an hour or so before aiming the Vespa back in the direction of the main dirt road. I followed it back to the small house with the safe. To my surprise, the safe was now closed and locked again. I no longer had the original note, but thankfully, my dumbass brain, which only received up to a 7th grade education, remembered the combination. Inside was another note. This one had a new address and telephone number. Underneath the note was a plane ticket. The flight was for the following evening. I was going home. I located a phone in the small house and dialed the number. "Come at noon," a male voice said, without a single word more. I didn't say a thing. There was no time. The voice disconnected the call immediately. I located some liquor in the small kitchen, a chunk of nearly stale bread, and a perfectly ripe nectarine. I ate the bread and fruit, guzzled the liquor, and then stumbled my way into the small bedroom. I passed out and didn't wake until nearly noon the following day.